Hello, I'm Richard Fletcher. I'm here with Shropshire Star and Telford reporter Jonny Drury. Jonny, AFC Telford 1, Leyton Orient 2. It wasn't meant to be for Telford's Wembley dream.
No, it was. I had a feeling today it might be one step too far for them. They give a great account of themselves last week at Orient, and luckily kept the tie alive, which meant that it was a packed house here today. They said about 3,500, but I suspect it was a little bit more than that. But yeah, going into it, you always fancy they had a chance. They certainly had a chance the way they've been playing this season. But Orient are top of the National League for a reason, and I think they showed, especially later on in the game, after they'd ridden some pressure. You know, they were down to 10 men, but they rode some pressure and yeah, killed the game off really. So not to be for Telford, but you know, the players are bitterly disappointed, and so was Gavin Cowan after. But you know, they can be immensely proud of what they've done today. You know, this side was meant to be relegation fodder this season, and they're in the playoffs still. You know, and they were inches from Wembley in front of, you know, 4,000 people.
They certainly were, and we got here. The atmosphere was fantastic. The teams came out. The place was absolutely buzzing, and then 5 minutes in, a calamitous error, and exactly what Gavin Cowan would not want starting the game.
No, and it was, you know, it was one of them. I think it was a bit of nerves, you know, maybe a bit of pressure from the crowd. I'm not too sure, but yeah, you know, Cowan just said his staff, his players said keep it tight early on, and the plan sort of went out the window after 6 minutes. I think it was one of them. It was an innocuous ball over the top. Matt Harrold, who you know, as we know, got sent off, but he harried Ross White, and I think he was expecting Andy Wychley to stay where he was and just nod it back to him, and when he looked up he'd already headed it, and Wychley was off his line and it had gone over him, and Harrold chance to poke it in. A bit of a sickener for the Telford fans, being an ex-Shrewsbury player as well, Matt Harrold, but you know, they rallied from there. I don't think, I know Orient hit the bar with a looping header, and I think it was Turley, the fullback, had a couple of headers that went wide, but from there Telford settled really, and they weren't troubled a lot by Orient until the latter stages of the game, and I think that's testament to Telford. I think Gavin Cowan said it after, and he was man of the match today, and he had a raving review of my report. Ellis Deeney, he was out last week and they missed him. He missed his creativity, but he gives them that drive. He can tackle, he can pass. And Gavin said he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, just not just for his equaliser, but for what he did, and he got Telford back in the game after what was a pretty woeful start.
Yeah. And it was a woeful start, and Orient, you know, did have, you know, a lot of pressure at the start of that first period. It wasn't looking good. The crowd had gone quiet. It was a little bit flat in here, and then halfway through the first half, out of nothing really, there's a sending off, and that sort of changed the game. What did you make of the sending off?
Yeah, the sending off, bit of an Arsene Wenger moment. I didn't actually see it from where I was sitting. I just saw Shane Sutton on the floor, but from previous, Matt Harrold got away with a couple of them last week. He's all sort of legs and arms and elbows, and I don't know if they were intentional. I know Shane Sutton had a bit of a bleeding nose last week and had to come off for a bit of treatment, but this one, from what I'm told, he's blatantly swung the elbow and caught Shane in the nose. I noticed he finished the game with tissues up his nose again, so he got another nosebleed. But yeah, I think it was, you know, the referee was on top of it. He marched over. He didn't even have to listen to the Telford shouts. He gave the red card, and that changed the game. Telford sort of grabbed a bit of momentum on the back of that, and then that obviously led to the goal.
Yeah, and you know, fantastic goal from Ellis Deeney. He really controlled that midfield area, and then, you know, going into the second half, 10 men, 1-1. You know, the crowd, everyone in here thought, you know, just go on and win it. I know it's obviously not that simple, but it was all going in Telford's favour at that point.
Well, they come out, and Orient, in the first minute, Orient weren't organised, and Dan Udo slid one into James McQuilkin after about 30 seconds of the second half. And you know, midfield not known for scoring goals. I think if he just lashes a left foot, he'll probably hit the target first time. As it was, he took a touch and the chance went away, and that one seemed like the big chance. Yeah. That was the best chance they probably had of the second half. But for that 20 minutes, they had Orient on the ropes. You know, Orient are a solid side, but they did look like, you know, Telford could really get them at that point. But you know, it wasn't to be. A couple of shots went deflected, saved, and ultimately in the end, you know, they couldn't get through what was a bit of a double red wall at the end. They were banked up, and strikers were back, and they battled it out.
Yeah, and towards the end of that second period, towards the end of the game, Orient's class, you know, began to toll. Maybe, you know, the Telford players were tiring slightly. We could see them managing the game quite well, and then there was that goal towards the end, you know, a little bit sloppy, but you know, we could see it coming, couldn't we?
Yeah, they sat in and had to soak up pressure, and I think then in the end there was a chance. I think it was Macaulay Bonne who scored last week, blaze wide. It was their first chance of the half, but from then for the next couple of minutes, you thought that they'd, grabbed the initiative a little bit, sprayed it round, and it wasn't long before they got the goal. It's a poor goal to concede, I think, from Telford's point of view. It was a free kick to the back post.
Yeah.
I think defenders just headed it back into the mix, and no one was there to meet it. And I think it was Coulson who met the header and looped it over Wycherley, who was in a bit of no man's land, had been taken out of the game. But I think tiredness kicked in as well. Telford are part-time, they've put in an awful lot to stay in that tie against a side who, are probably going to be in the Football League again next season. They're a massive club, and tiredness probably told they're part-time, Leyton Orient are full-time. But take nothing away from Orient, they did show their class. I think what for me stood out, I think Joby McAnuff, the old ex-Premier League player, I think at the end he especially stood out because he was just dictating the play and stroking it round and got his team over the line. But what I would say is it took 47 minutes for Leyton Orient to start time wasting, which was testament to Telford and how threatening they are seen by other teams as well. Magnificent performance from today, but step too far, and it probably could have been one more at the end.
Speaking to the fans outside the ground, they're obviously very proud of the cut run, proud of the performance, but what they all kind of emphasise that it's very important that they take the form that they showed in their cup into the league and try and cement a playoff place and ultimately promotion.
That's the biggest thing. Now, how often do we see a minnow have a good cup run and then their league form falters after that? That happens quite often. But Telford have shown that it's been a fortress here this season. Probably that's just the 4th defeat in all competitions, and it has been a fortress, and they need to keep that momentum going now. They need to, Bradford Tuesday, long trip. I think the most optimistic Telford fan would take a point on Tuesday night because Bradford are in the playoff mix, but keep themselves there or thereabouts. They're 2 games, they've slipped out of the playoffs, I believe, today. I'm not too sure, but they've got 2 games in hand on the likes of Kidderminster and Chester now. So what they need to do is, it's in their own hands. What they can do is, go on and it's in their hands to get in the playoffs now. They've got experience of big games now, which will hopefully hold them in good stead. This year the playoff format's changed. You have to win a quarter-final, then a semi-final, then a final. Okay. But they've got big game experience in them now, and this will, Dan Udo said, we don't see it as a disappointment. We learn from this, and I think that's what they've got to do, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, it wasn't meant to be for AFC Telford. The Wembley dream's over, but for all the reaction to today's defeat, please log on to shropshirесtar.com.